Dangers presented by toy drones grows with their popularity. By fair warning, adapted by News ELA staff on 2/23/16, and this is the Level 6 article. Washington, D.C. One December night, Owen Ouyang launched a drone he had recently bought for about $1,000. The California student sent the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, UAV, flying from his front yard. The 2.8-pound drone was advertised as easy to fly. It was not. Soon after takeoff, the drone moved dangerously toward a power line. It then climbed more than 700 feet, right into the path of a California Highway Patrol helicopter. A head-on crash was avoided only after the helicopter's crew made a sharp turn at the last moment. The incident illustrates a growing safety concern as more and more drones, particularly ones used for fun, take flight. Their popularity is booming in the United States. Sales of drones that weigh more than a half pound are expected to reach 1 million this year. At the same time, some people fear that the chances of a catastrophic crash with a manned aircraft are also soaring. They even worry that a drone could hit a large plane with many passengers. Blaming drone manufacturers. If we don't act now, it's only a matter of time before we have a tragedy on our hands, California Senator Dianne Feinstein said. That was back in June. Some say companies that sell toy drones are to blame. The aircraft sell from less than $100 to $3,000 or more. These drones, like Ouyang's device, can fly very high. Some people argue that they usually lack the navigation and communication systems and design quality needed to ensure safe flying. Paul Hudson is president of the airline passenger group FlyersRights.org. He said people working for drone makers had persuaded the Federal Aviation Administration to allow manufacturers and sellers to essentially avoid the rules. The FAA is the government group that makes rules for aircraft. Drone makers adding safety features. Industry officials say fears are overblown. They say companies already are adding new safety features. Brendan Schulman works for a huge Chinese drone maker called DJI. He said that nobody has been killed by a recreational drone and that drones have been flying for tens of millions of hours. Still, Feinstein and Senator Charles Schumer of New York want a law to let the FAA set rules for people who fly drones as a hobby. They also want the FAA to require companies that build drones used for fun or business to add safety features. The features would include limits on how high or where the devices can fly. Chelsea Sullenberger supports the proposed law. Sullenberger is a retired airline pilot. He is known for landing a big jet in the Hudson River in New York City in 2009 after it struck a flock of geese. Sullenberger said the increase in the number of drones and their hazardous piloting has made flying much more dangerous. Feinstein has vowed to argue her case in Congress. Drone makers appear ready to put up a fight. Many close calls between drones, aircraft. The Small UAV Coalition represents drone makers. Its members include DJI, Amazon, Google, and Intel. The group spent $890,000 last year trying to convince Congress and government lawmakers to take their side. Already, there are many worrisome incidents. A report released in December identified 327 close calls between drones and manned aircraft over a 21-month period that ended last September. The close calls included 51 cases in which the drones and the piloted aircraft came within 50 feet of each other. There were also 28 incidents in which a pilot changed course to avoid a crash. Some drones flew above a dozen wildfires last summer in California. To avoid mid-air crashes, some firefighting planes had to be pulled back. Drones also have flown close to some of the nation's busiest airports. They have approached planes carrying hundreds of passengers. Some worry that easily available high-flying drones could be used in terror attacks. Rules still not in place despite fears. Even so, new regulations have been slow to come. A rule that drones had to be registered was announced in December. Otherwise, recreational drone users have operated largely under voluntary FAA guidelines for model aircraft. These rules were made 35 years ago. The rules say users should limit flying to 400 feet above the ground. However, operators do not need to be trained. The government does not have to approve the drones either. The FAA proposed a new rule last February. It would make it easier to fly drones for business purposes like checking on power lines or crops. The agency said it expected to issue the final rule by late this spring.